years, I've been practicing the 3 wins of each day. I begin my day with what I call the 3 wins. It's the areas of discipline that will make a huge difference in your life. Here they are. The first win, learn to plan every day. Did you know if you'll take 1% of your day to plan the other 99%, it will make the other 99% go a lot better? Did you know 1% only is 14 minutes a day? 14 minutes a day to make the other 99% to go better. But you know what I found for so many people? They operate with what I call the no plan. Do you know what the no plan is? The no plan is a plan. It's just the worst plan you can have. Most people operate their lives that way. They'll take more time planning their vacation than they will their life. Take time every day to plan. That's the first win to begin each day. The second win is to study and to learn each day. Each day in the morning, I'll take at least an hour to read, to study, to learn, to grow, because I want to be the very best that I can be. Did you know the average high school student, when he graduates, will read 1 book through for their entire life? That's it. 1 book through their entire life on average. Did you know as executives, and many of you are executives here, you'll read 1 book on average every 5 years. You must take time to study and to learn every day. A number of years ago, I went through a leadership certification through Ritz-Carlton. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot of their values and on the area of customer service. But here's one of the nuggets that was so incredible that I learned. As a matter of fact, I have a hard time believing it's true, but I checked it out. And here's what I found out. A housekeeper at Ritz-Carlton, the lady or the gentleman responsible to make sure that your room is cleaned, an average housekeeper at Ritz-Carlton will spend 200 hours a year in learning and studying and improving so they can do a better job in cleaning your room. Studying 200 hours a year. If they will take 200 hours a year to learn, to grow, to clean a room, how much more important is it for you to do your job? Take every day, learn, grow, study. In my home, I have a library that we have over 1,000 books. Over the last 20 years, I've read personally over 1,000 books because I am committed to learn and to grow every day. So begin each day, you want to plan, and you want to take time to study. The third thing you need to do in the area of discipline, a win to begin each day, and I may step on your toes a little bit, but you need to take time each day to exercise, to work on helping you to be physically fit. Exercise, eat right. See, when you do that, you have more energy, you feel better, and I promise you, you'll look a lot better too. Take time to exercise every day. The 3 wins to begin every day: embrace discipline, plan each day, study each day, and take time to exercise. So I grew up in a family with 4 boys, and we were the type boys, we would play every kind of sport you can imagine. But my youngest brother, Casey, he was the guy that we always picked on. He was the smallest, he was the youngest. I mean, to be honest with you, he just wasn't a real good athlete. When we would pick teams in the neighborhood, we were all embarrassed for him because nobody wanted him on their team. He just wasn't real good. But you know, he started working at it, and he started getting stronger. He started embracing discipline in his life at a very early age. But we'd still laugh at him and pick on him. Matter of fact, I remember one time, we were playing Cowboys and Indians, and he was the only Indian. My other brothers and I tied him up to a pine tree, put some pine straw around him. We went into the house, got a box of matches. We lit the match, put it on the pine straw. Fortunately, my mom got out there in time to rescue him because he was getting a little singed at that moment. Now, we weren't going to hurt him bad. We just wanted to scare him a little bit. But those are the kind of things we'd do to my little brother, Casey. But he got tired of that. Have you ever been picked on before? It's not really fun, but he did something about it. So he started working out. He started running. He started lifting weights. And did you know, when he was 19 years old, he became the strongest teenager in the world because he learned to embrace discipline at an early age. When he was 21 years old, he was recognized as the second strongest person in the United States. He learned the importance of embracing discipline. See, when you embrace discipline, you can defeat if only in your life. And here's something you need to know, leader. When you embrace discipline, not only does it impact your life, but the ones that are around you, your family and the people that you work with. Because see, in his family, he's got 4 boys. He's got 4 sons. His son, number 1, Case, graduated from medical school. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He finished at the top of his class. His second son, Luke, played for the LSU Tigers on their football team, where he started at linebacker and he won a national championship. His third son is planning on going into the medical field. His name is Rick. And his youngest son, Nick, is still in high school, but he may end up being the smartest and the best athlete out of the 4. They all 4 understand the importance of embracing discipline. And did you know all 4 of them never made less than an A all the way through high school? If you as a leader will learn to embrace discipline in your life, not only will it make a difference for you, but it will make a difference to all of those around you. My wife and I, we live in Dallas, Texas. And one of our favorite places to eat is this diner called Mama's Daughters. You know, the name kind of says it all. When you think about Mama's Daughters, it's just good old home cooking, cornbread, fried okra, mashed potatoes. It's that kind of place. And when we go there, we have a certain booth we like to sit at. Our waitress will bring us our tea. And even depending on the day, she knows what we want to order. Because, see, we're the usual suspects. We're the old crowd that usually eats there. But this one particular time, in the booth right in front of us was this young mom and dad, and they had this young son. He was probably no more than 5, 6 years old. And while we're eating, we hear this young boy in this very loud voice say, "Dad, I've decided I want to become a superhero." When he said that, I've got to tell you, I started eavesdropping just a little bit because I was so curious on what this dad would say. And the dad came back and said, "Well, you know, son, that's a pretty big job." And the little boy said, "I know, Dad, but you know, I don't even cry when I bleed now." And for the next several minutes, we got to hear this dad and this mom just speak words of encouragement and affirmation to this little boy. It was just beautiful how they just encouraged him for the next several minutes. It was incredible. You know, I was thinking to myself, how many times has a conversation like that happened and we start throwing these type jabs? "Well, son, if only you were big enough, maybe you could be a superhero. If only you were old enough. If only you were strong enough." But not one time did this mom or dad say anything of the sort. Nothing but words of encouragement. But see, don't we all live in that world of if only? To me, if only is one of the saddest expressions we'll ever hear. If only I would have applied myself more in school. If only I would have spent more time with my family. If only I would not have made that bad choice. And we also use if only as an excuse. If only I had more time. If only I had more money. If only I would have had that opportunity. If only. One of the saddest expressions you'll ever hear. Back when I was in school, we had to learn the 3 R's. Does anybody here know what the 3 R's? Anybody know about the 3 R's? It was reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now today, if you want to lead yourself, you better know what the 2 R's are all about. And it's reality. You need to know what reality is for you. I find so many times people are just not self-aware of where they are, what their current situation is. So you better know what reality is. And the second R is responsibility. Taking personal responsibility for your life, for your actions. So let's talk about the first R in leadership. Probably one of my favorite definitions of leadership is by a guy named Max Dupree, and he says leadership is defining reality. So what is reality for you? Do you know what reality is for your life and what you're about? You know, we hear this often. You have those defining moments. We've all had defining moments, right? Have you ever had a defining reality moment? A number of years ago, I was part of a team of 9 guys that we were going on a expedition to the Himalaya mountains. Now, don't ask me all the details behind it, but 9 of us were going to the Himalayas on this expedition, and we were going to train for 8 months to get to the place that we could make this trip. A good friend of mine asked me to consider going. I did. I made a decision, but I did not have all the details. And so the day that I met with the person that would be our guide, and he started laying out for us exactly what was involved, I really started having a change of heart. He said, you will have to train where you can hike 4 to 5 hours at a time with your boots on and with your backpack on. I said, well, that'd be tough, but maybe I can do it. Then he said, once you get where you can hike 4 or 5 hours with your backpack, you'll need to get where you can hike going up a mountain with no switchbacks straight up. And I thought to myself, that will be a challenge. And he said, not only that, but you'll have to get to the place that you can go up to an altitude of 12,000 feet. Now, I thought to myself, that's going to be a tough trip. Then he added the last little piece of the puzzle. Not only do you have to hike for 4 or 5 hours, not only do you have to climb straight up a mountain at an altitude of 12,000 feet, but you will be carrying up to 50 pounds of weight on your back. Now, you may not know how heavy 50 pounds really is. Think about when you go to the airport and you've got a heavy piece of luggage. Did you know that the most you can put on the scales with them not charging you more is 50 pounds? Think about a 50-pound suitcase, putting that on the scales, but taking it off the scales and putting it on your back and going straight up a mountain. I was over my head and knew it. But listen, we had 8 months to train. So I started out my training, and I'll never forget, I got my boots, I got my backpack, and I would start just hiking in my neighborhood. Now, I did look a little strange. We had a few people call the sheriff's department on me, but I had to start working at it. And I got where I could walk for 30 minutes and an hour and 2 hours and 3 hours. I was doing pretty good. But that weight of 50 pounds was staring at me. In our yard, we had these huge landscaping rocks, and I'll never forget this. We had this huge landscaping rock, and I thought to myself, you know, if I get this landscaping rock, I put that in my backpack, that will get me very close to my target of 50 pounds. So I remember in my garage, I got that landscaping rock, I put it in my backpack, and I slid it up over my shoulders, and when I did, it almost threw me to the ground. I almost fell down, and I thought to myself, I don't know how I can do this. And so I finally got it hooked together on my back, and I started walking. And probably for the first week or two, this is what I looked like, something like this, walking in the neighborhood, because it was so heavy. But after a month, I could stand straight up. But I also realized, you know, I need to get to the place that I could simulate what it's like climbing a mountain. And I thought to myself, I live in Louisiana, it's completely flat. How could I ever do that? Well, I realized that the place that I worked out, they had a stair climber that gave you that simulation of climbing a mountain. And I started thinking to myself, I'll probably look strange, but I need to start training. So I started going to the workout place with my backpack, with my garb, and I would get on the Stairmaster, the stair climber. Now, people didn't talk to me much because they were really confused, but I would just start doing this, climbing the mountain with this heavy backpack. Well, after doing that for a few weeks, I got pretty good at it. Then my good buddy Jim, who ran the place that I worked out, he was a personal trainer, a good friend of mine. He came up to me and he said, Scotty, how are you doing on your training? And I said, well, I think I'm doing pretty good. He goes, well, I know your target is to get to 50 pounds. Do you know how much weight you have in your backpack? And I said, Jim, I don't, but let me tell you, it's very heavy. It's got to be close to my target. He goes, here's an idea. Before you leave today, stop by my office. I've got a set of scales, and we'll weigh it, and that way we'll know how much you have in your backpack. And, of course, I was more than willing to show off my physical prowess, and I said, absolutely, I'll be glad to do that. So I finish my workout. I go by Jim's office. He's got his scales there. I take my backpack off. I lay it on the scales, and I'm looking at the scales, and then I start looking to my left and my right because I was totally convinced that I had been punked because those scales could not be right because it said 13 pounds, and it's no way that my backpack could just weigh 13 pounds. But to the reality of the moment, that's exactly what I was carrying. See, for me, I had someone to define reality in that moment. I thought I was closer to 50 pounds, but in reality, I was only 13 pounds. Well, we did end up completing our mission. We accomplished it, but it was a very difficult trip. But had I not had my good buddy Jim define reality for me, I may not have ever been able to make the trip. Each of us, as part of leadership, need to define reality for ourselves. A few months ago, I was visiting with a 17-year-old. He was getting ready to graduate from high school, and I was really kind of interested in what his plans were. And I asked him, what are your plans once you get out of high school? Are you planning on going to college, getting a job? And this is what he told me. He said, I'm planning on being a fireman. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe he has a real desire to help people. And I said, well, what led you to want to be a fireman? And this is what he told me. He said, well, I've got a good friend of mine. His dad is a fireman. And I was talking to his dad, and I found out from his dad that firemen have a great retirement plan. Now get the picture here. This young man is 17 years old. He's got 50 years to work, maybe more, and he's already planning his retirement. He's already thinking about his retirement at 17 years old. Now, conversely, my dad is 77 years old. He's been very successful selling insurance. He still works full time. This past year, he finished number 2 in the entire nation selling health insurance out of a company that has nearly 1,000 salespeople. And you know what his dream is for this next year? His dream is not to finish second, but to finish first. See, when your memories become greater than your dreams, you've got big trouble. See, it doesn't matter if you're 17 or 77. If you don't have dreams, you're already too old. Learn to enlarge your dreams. Several months ago, I read this article about some friends that were in for a reunion. And one of the friends was from South Africa. And the guy from South Africa asked his friends this question. He said, where do you think is the most valuable land in the entire world? And some of the friends guessed. One of them said, well, you know, he's from South Africa, so maybe it's the diamond mines in Africa. And then another friend said, well, maybe he's thinking the oil fields in the Middle East. And none of these answers were right. Well, a few others guessed. And then the man from South Africa finally told him. He said, no, let me tell you where the most valuable land is. The most valuable land in the entire world is in the graveyard. For there is buried all the unfulfilled dreams, all the masterpieces that have yet to be created, all the books that were never written, all the businesses that have never been started, all the relationships that have not been reconciled. For there is the most valuable land in the entire world. Well, one of his friends, it just really got all over him about how profound and powerful that thought is, that he started thinking, man, I don't want to die and have things still in me. I want to make sure that I live my life giving everything that I can. I want to make sure if there's a book that I'm supposed to write, that I write it. I want to make sure if there's a relationship I need to reconcile, that I do it. And he really started thinking about what could he do? How could he change his life? And he made a commitment that day that he would never live a life of if only again, a life of regrets. But he wanted to make sure from that day forward that he would die empty. And that is my wish for you, as it is for me that I die empty.